can get a Van Halen striped, well, almost anything these days. But do you remember when having these stripes was illegal? I mean, the cops weren't kicking down your door, but eBay was definitely pulling your listing down. Even today, getting this paint job on this guitar is not easy to come by. It can definitely happen, but you don't see it much. So let's talk about the most illegal paint job of the early 2000s. All right, that might be a little hyperbolic, but in honor of Ed's birthday on January 26th, this is the custom-painted 5150 striped Ernie Ball Music Man Edward Van Halen signature guitar. I'm Thom Tran, and this is the show where I go in-depth into my guitar collection and that of my friends to give you the story, both historic and personal, about these rare and special instruments and how they got into our hands. This is the story behind the strings. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, I'm giving one of you a guitar if I get 5,000 or more subscribers before my birthday episode next month that drops on February 20th, 2024. More details on that at the end of this episode. So hit the subscribe button, tap the thumbs up to help the algorithm along, hit the bell icon, and share the episode and channel with your friends. This is one of the crown jewels of my collection, a custom-painted 5150 striped Ernie Ball Music Man Edward Van Halen signature guitar. This is not a tribute guitar. This is not an altered Axis or OLP or anything like that. This baby started its life as a purple Ernie Ball Music Man Eddie Van Halen signature guitar long before I got it. But before we get into that story, we'll start with the specs as always. Now, if you've seen my other episodes on the Ernie Ball EVH guitars, there's a time code at the bottom to skip this part. But I'm treating this as if you've never seen an episode before, so we'll do a quick rundown on the specs. It's got a single-cut basswood body and a Music Man branded Floyd Rose style trim made by Goto. It's got one volume knob labeled tone, just like Ed had, and it comes standard with two DiMarzio custom wound EVH humbuckers in the bridge and neck positions, and the pickup selector switch is in the lower horn. It's got a cream binding and it was available in various colors. You can see my original episode for the full list with a slight addendum. In the original video, I forgot to mention that it comes in green. So there, it also comes in green. It's got a 25.5-inch scale with an asymmetric neck and 10-inch radius, 22 medium frets and small dot inlays. The headstock is painted the same as the body, and it's got Ernie Ball Music Man's patented 4x2 tuner setup with Schaller tuners. There's no comfort cut on the back like the Axis models. It's got 3 rear cavities for the switches and hardware, and Ernie Ball's 5-bolt neck plate. Like I mentioned earlier, finding one of these with this paint job is very rare. I've only seen 1 or 2 for sale, and that was after the fact, and we'll get into why in just a couple of minutes. Now, the stock models were available from 1991 to 1995 for between $1,600 and $2,000. But unlike the current crop of VH guitars, this paint job on this model was never commercially available, and it was strictly a custom job situation. But considering stock models are currently selling for between $3,000 and $7,000 as of 2024, you can bet a custom paint job like this will add at least $1,000 to that price tag. If you see one for sale nowadays, make sure it's not an altered Axis model or made by OLP or Sterling or anything like that, even if it's one of the actual Ernie Ball Music Man Axis models. Now, as we covered in the earlier episodes about the Ernie Ball Music Man EVH signature models, Ed's deal with Kramer Guitars ended in the early 90s, and he took up with Ernie Ball Music Man because they were already making his 5150 guitar strings. Now, before his Music Man deal, Ed was synonymous with his custom-built and striped parts casters, starting with his famous black and white striped guitar on the cover of Van Halen's self-titled debut album in 1978, then the Bumblebee as seen on the cover of the 1979 Van Halen 2 album. And finally, his red, white, and black Frankenstrat, commonly referred to as the 5150 pattern, which became his trademark and one of the most famous instruments in history. Fun fact, the 5150 Frankie is actually the original black and white guitar repainted. That's a story for another episode. Those stripes on a Strat-style body were intrinsically linked with Eddie Van Halen. So when he made the jump to Ernie Ball and started using a different shaped guitar with a mostly solid color, it would have taken everyone a little by surprise. And maybe that's why the very first frame the band playing in a music video for Pound Cake, the lead single from Van Halen's For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album, started with Eddie taking a 5150 striped Makita drill to the pickups of his 5150 painted Ernie Ball Music Man. Now, Lance over at evhartguitars.com sent me some photos of the April 1991 issue of Young Guitar with Ed on the cover holding a prototype of his soon-to-be signature model. And Johnny Bean confirmed that a Music Man ad from earlier in that year had Ed with the guitar as well. But the Pound Cake video didn't premiere until June of 1991. So for the wider world, it was the Pound Cake video that most people saw the new guitar for the first time. Now, there was no freeze frame or YouTube scrubbing in 1991, so for your casual, non-guitar magazine reading Van Halen fans, it was a quick, wait, what was that? What was that? Like, we all recognized the paint job, but that was not a Kramer or a Frankie, and it was something totally different. Other than a few frames here and there with the striped Music Man, Ed mostly used his Amber Quilt signature model for that video. Now, that was the wider world's first introduction to the Ernie Ball Music Man Eddie Van Halen signature guitar. Just a hint of something familiar, but clearly totally different from what we'd known for over a decade. The custom-painted Ernie Ball in that video would later become known as the Pound Cake guitar, and it was different from the striped model that he'd later be seen with. The next video from the album was for the song Runaround, which featured a different 5150 painted Ernie Ball Music Man signature model, and that guitar is referred to as the Runaround guitar. Super creative, guys. Super creative. Now, I've asked around, but no one seems to know if they're the same guitar, just repainted and with different specs, or if it's a completely different instrument. There are some pretty noticeable differences, though. Obviously, the paint job and stripes are slightly different, as most of Ed's hand-painted guitars were, but mostly the Pound Cake guitar, the first one, had a homemade vibe to it. The paint job went around the entire guitar, like on his hand-built Frankies, while the Runaround guitar looks more polished, and it's got a cream binding and a black back like this one, like you would get from a factory job. Also, the Pound Cake guitar in the video has a red and black zebra humbucker in the neck position and a piece of tape near the upper horn for picks, while the Runaround guitar doesn't have either. And good photos of both are pretty rare. Other than the music video, the Pound Cake guitar can be seen in a photo shoot on a beach in Malibu, where that red and black neck pickup had actually been swapped out, while the Runaround guitar can be seen very clearly in this famous promo photo of Ed in front of a 5150 painted pickup truck. Now, if you've seen any other photos or videos of Ed playing a striped Music Man, let me know in the comments below. Like I said earlier in the video, there was a time when you could not get a Van Halen style guitar without having someone custom paint it for you. As a matter of fact, you couldn't get anything striped with the famous red, white, and black Frankenstein VH pattern because Ed has owned the copyright to the pattern since 2001. And in 2009, Nike, yes, that Nike, got sued by ELVH Inc., Ed's company, when they released a pair of Nike Dunk Lows that looked remarkably like Ed's copyrighted pattern. And that was pretty much the case at the time. If anything showed up on eBay or commercially that hinted of the red, white, and black striped pattern, a copyright claim would be filed and it was getting pulled off the internet. It didn't stop it from happening. You could sometimes buy something before it got noticed by the copyright cops, but Van Halen striped stuff was nowhere near as available as it is today. Right now, if you type Van Halen stripe into Google Shopping, you will get guitars, and sneakers, and shirts, and rugs, and
2 hours later,
and skateboards, and leggings, and towels, and so on, and so on, and so on. And most of it is legally licensed. And although you may occasionally come across one of these Ernie Ball Music Man shaped models striped and online for sale, but you rarely see them. Probably because there were only 6,000 to 7,000 of these stock models made during their 4-year run. And some of those original colors are very rare, making them very collectible and very expensive. So like I said earlier, if you do see one for sale, it could very well be an Axis or a Sterling or an OLP model that was striped up. Of course, the easiest way to tell right off the bat is the position of the pickup selector switch. An EVH signature model has it in the lower horn, while the other models have the switch positioned near the volume knob. And with that said, I've seen people who have done custom jobs using like a Sterling AX40 and routing out a spot for the selector switch near the lower horn. So what I'm saying is, be careful if you see one online. Now, if you have any questions about something, I'd be more than happy to take a look. Just hit me up in the comments below. Now that brings us to my guitar. This started its life as a translucent purple EVH model built on May 10th, 1993, according to Ernie Ball's online serial number database. I bought it online in 2017 and I got it for a wicked deal considering how much they're selling for in 2024. But by the time I got it, it was already nearly 24 years old and it was not a case queen. It was very well loved and very well played and dinged to hell. And the Ernie Ball Music Man models were notorious for paint fading over the years. And that was the case for mine. By the time I got it, it had definitely seen better days. But I wasn't mad at it. This was definitely going to get used live, and I did play the crap out of it. And once or twice, or 7 times, may have accidentally added a couple of scratches and gashes to it myself. So in 2018, I decided I wanted to get this refinished. At first, I thought about getting it redone in purple and bringing it back to its original glory, but then I remembered I already had another purple EVH model, a hardtail. So because I've so rarely seen a striped Ernie Ball EVH, and because this was already beat up and I was already getting it repainted, why not get the 5150 stripe job done on a guitar that I know for sure is an authentic EVH model? Now I know some of you are screaming at your computers and phones right now, but it really was beat to hell by its original owners, by subsequent owners, and then I definitely put it through its paces. And if the money was gonna get spent, I wanted a 5150 striped Ernie Ball Music Man Eddie Van Halen model, because this is as rare as it gets. So I took it over to my tech, Seth Myers in Sherman Oaks, California, who does amazing work. So much so that I've had him do several other custom jobs for me, including my USS Enterprise NCC 1701.
No bloody A, B, C, or D.
Star Trek themed repaint of a beat up Ibanez PGM 301 Paul Gilbert model that I commissioned for my Star Trek band, the Bridge Crew. If you want an episode about that guitar, let me know in the comments below. So I dropped it off and gave Seth a few reference photos, including that one of Ed in front of the pickup truck. And about a month later, I got it back looking crazy sexy with these stripes. And it hangs prominently on my Van Halen wall in my office so that I can grab her anytime I want and start noodling. So let's give her a quick go, just so you can hear how she sounds. There it is, the story behind the strings of my custom painted Ernie Ball Music Man Edward Van Halen signature guitar in honor of Eddie's birthday this week. He is so missed and so loved. I hope you liked this episode. I had fun doing it. A little deep dive into one of my favorite guitars in my collection. Before we go, here are some more details about my guitar giveaway. So as I mentioned in the last episode, I'll be giving one of you a guitar if my channel gets 5,000 or more subscribers before my birthday episode on February 20th, 2024. This is how it'll work. Subscribe to the channel and leave a comment between now and then. You can tell me about one of the guitars in your collection, a guitar you want to have in your collection, or anything like that. Or, because I'm a professional stand-up comedian, tell me a guitar story that'll make me laugh. But it doesn't have to be any of those. Just leave a comment. If I get 5,000 or more subscribers before February 20th, 2024's episode, I will pick a name from those comments, and I will be giving that person a guitar that'll be featuring soon on the show. No purchase of any kind is necessary, so if you get a message from someone claiming to be me asking for money or shipping costs or anything like that, it's a scam. However, my lawyer has advised that I keep the winner in the continental United States. I'm sorry to my international subscribers. Maybe if Sweetwater wants to sponsor me or something like that, we can get something overseas, but this is my first giveaway and we're just trying to figure it out, so we are going to keep it to the continental United States. Thanks as always for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share the episode and channel with your rocker friends, and maybe I'll be giving you a guitar. If you like one of my custom shirts, like this one, Check out my TeePublic store at ThomTranShop.com. If you've got a few bucks and you want to further support the show, you can head to Patreon, where you can become a roadie, a tech, or a hired gun. My stand-up comedy dates are on my website, ThomTran.com. You can always follow me on the places like Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. The links to everything are in the show notes. Happy New Year, and let the strings tell your story.